Alright, now we're going to do the script just like we were talking, except use goblin speak this time.
In goblin speak?
Yeah, it's going to make it a little more light, a little more entertaining.
Hi-ho, today we're taking a look at Goblin Teeth
Okay, cut. I think we're going to go with our original plan.
Goblin Teeth is a game that incorporates dice and cards to bring about stabbing each other in the back, bidding to earn shiny trinkets, and a race to be the first to collect one of the 3 predetermined sets for the game. To begin a round, players simultaneously roll their 3 dice, then proceed to bid in turn order on any of the face-up or the face-down items in front of them. On a player's turn, they first play as many cheat cards as they'd like. That's right, there's plenty of allowed cheating in this game, which I guess if it's incorporated into the game, it loses some of that allure of the forbidden nectar flavor. There are 2 types of cheat cards, one that's instantaneous and one that's prolonged, staying in front of any character the player chooses, including themselves. They then place one of their dice on a card or on the altar. Now, placing a die on a card is as simple as it sounds, with a few slight caveats. You can't place a die if you would tie with another player, and the sum of your place dice on any single card can't be over 10, and that's primarily because goblins are known idiots and can't count higher than the amount of fingers that they have. If a die is placed on the altar, then a player can either grab a cheat card for later use, or remove a cheat card that is face up in front of any player, including themselves. At the end of the round, the cards are divvied up to the winners, and the process repeats until someone makes one of the victory sets. And that's pretty much Goblin Teeth. It's a very simple, easy to learn game, which, if you're not familiar with Jelly Bean Games, is kind of what they're shooting for. The games that they present are fun and light and easy to teach, but they lack a certain amount of strategic teeth. And that's on purpose. Like most of their games that I've interacted with, the intention is clear in terms of what they're trying to present to you, as well as what your goal is within the game. Understanding how to win this game is simple. Understanding how you could potentially get to that victory point is easy. And the strategy to do so without interference from other players is simple. But the real bite of Goblin Teeth comes in with the interaction of the other players. And with that being said, this is precisely what Jelly Bean means to put out. And it succeeded with flying colors at accomplishing their goal of what they wanted this game to be. And so understanding that it meets that goal, the next unspoken question is it fun? And if not fun, is it at the very least interesting? Looking at the game at a surface level, the only real gripes that I had were that the dice were maybe a little bit too small, and admittedly that's a tiny gripe. But when you're playing with kids, or even someone that's maybe a little bit more clumsy with the dice, when you have to crawl around on the ground to find them, when you're using something so small, it's a little annoying. And granted, maybe I'm spoiled because so many games come with such giant chunky dice nowadays. The other small gripe that I had was the fact that the item cards and the cheat cards both had the exact same back. Now, ideally that's because you're holding all those cards in the same hand and you don't want your opponent to understand or realize the ratio that you have in terms of items and cheat cards. And so I was going to let it slide because functionally within the game, yeah, that kind of makes sense, despite it being kind of annoying in terms of organizing and setting up the game. A small gripe, I was going to completely ignore it until I had my wife sit down and play the game with us. And she said the exact same thing. And so while it's a small enough gripe, the fact that 2 of us noticed that and verbalized it, it was worth pointing out. Essentially, the feel of the game is fine, right? It's cards and it's dice, and the cards are nice and big. And because they're big, it can show off that vibrant artwork, which is really evocative, albeit a little bit gross with all the teeth and the bugs. But again, it's an artifact that sets out to do one specific thing, and it does that thing well. So along with all the intentional goals that Jelly Bean puts on its games, it also completes, I think, the aesthetic appeal that it was shooting for. And that vibrancy lends a level of richness that you might not otherwise expect from a lighter weight game. And certainly while the game's simple, it throws enough curveballs at you in terms of the rules to keep it interesting. The cheat cards, I was worried about it being a really annoying backstabbing thing because that's not really the type of thing that I enjoy as much anymore. But it's done really well within Goblin Teeth because everyone's got superpowers. You're doing stuff, and when you've got enough of these cheat cards in your hand, suddenly they're not so much, oh, I'm stopping you, I'm stabbing you in the back. It becomes more of a rolling combo on your turn to manipulate the playing field as much as possible to get you the bid that you want. And with the restrictions on bidding, it works really well together, where you've got to manipulate as much as possible with still the limitations of not being able to bid more than 10 or tie any player at a single time. So being able to use those cheat cards in bulk becomes almost the crux of the game, where you're vastly limited in what you can do in terms of how and when you can bid. And so it's up to this other deck of finding different combinations that work, or even just the right card at the right time to get what you need. And I probably would be much more frustrated with this game if it had a longer runtime. But at like 15 minutes, it's in that sweet spot of like, that was pretty fun. It was a really enjoyable experience. Goblin Teeth is the type of game that I probably wouldn't turn down if someone said they wanted to play it. In fact, it might be the type of game that I bring along when I don't want to deal with a longer strategy game. Or I'm bringing it along to a place where people just want to play something that they can understand and play quickly, that has a lot of player interaction. Because there's an appeal to that. And Jelly Bean understands that, and I understand that, and I understand what they were going for here. And they nailed it. Goblin Teeth is a fun game. And if any of this sounded interesting to you, I really do recommend that you check it out. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. Leave a comment. Check out my social media links in the description below. And we will see you next time. Thanks.